Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, May 21st. Um, Sorry if I sound a little weird. My allergies are kind of acting up, so if it sounds a little funny, it's not your screen, it's just me right now. Um, we are going to talk about our pedometers today. So some of you may remember these little things right here. When you open them up, there's a little screen here, and it tells you how many steps that you have taken during the day or during the class period. So for PE, we use these for one class period. They're pretty simple. They're one of the first things that actually counted people's steps, and they're one of the first fitness trackers pretty much ever created. So inside the pedometer, this is what it looks like. It's pretty simple. In this little slot right here, there would be a battery, and the little arm that you see moving up and down, that is going to be the thing that counts your steps. So every time that ticks down, it's going to be counting your steps. Okay, so as you're walking and this thing is bouncing up and down as you're walking around, like I said, it's counting your steps. And we're at about 12 right now, or 13 right now. It's backwards on the screen, but that is how it works. To reset it, all you're going to do is there's a yellow button here that says reset. And I understand everything's backwards. It's just kind of how the webcam is set up. But the yellow button resets it, so it'll go from 14 back down to 0. And then you just close it back up. To put it on, you can put it on like a waistband. You can put it on your pocket. And all you do is take this little clip, and I'll show you on my shirt here. You take the little clip right here, and you slide it onto the fabric of your clothing, and then it would track your steps as you're walking. Like I said, you want to put it somewhere around your legs because that's going to be where your movement is coming from. If it's up on your shirt, it's not going to track your steps very well, and you're not going to get very accurate data as to how many steps you're getting. So getting more into this with pedometers, so the recommended steps per day is about 10,000 steps. And while 10,000 steps sounds like a lot, to put it in perspective, most of our second and third graders this year in one PE class period, we're getting somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 steps just from one class in PE. So if you take that and then you take recess into account and then walking up and on the school stairs from classroom to classroom and leaving the building, coming into the building, most students are probably leaving school with close to 6,000 or 7,000 steps each day. So if you're leaving with 6,000 or 7,000 steps, that leaves you either 3,000 or 4,000 steps left for the day, and you're almost to that 10,000 steps right there. So going off the 10,000 steps, so that many steps is actually about 5 miles per day. And when I say it's about 5 miles, that's because older students, you're going to be able to, your steps are going to be a lot longer than, say, a kindergartner's steps would be. So a kindergartner's 10,000 steps will most likely be less than 5 miles, and a fifth grader's steps would probably be at least 5 miles, if not a little more, depending on how tall you are, how long your legs are, and how long your steps are. And 2,000 steps equals about 1 mile. Okay, and like I said with the miles before, your steps are going to be, the steps to mile ratio is going to be based on how long your legs are and how long your steps are. So most kindergarten through, I believe it's first grade or second grade, and I'll put it in here right now. So K through 2, they actually need close to 2,400 steps, whereas third grade through fifth grade is closer to that 2,000 steps. Just because, like I said, their legs are longer, they're able to cover more ground with their steps. Kindergartners might have more steps because they're taking more steps to get to that same goal, and their legs are a lot shorter. So they might have more steps in a class period just because their legs are shorter and their movements are a lot shorter, so they have to do a lot more to cover the same distance. So that's kind of how all that works. Moving on to these options right here. So what I did here is I put pedometer because that's the thing we're using. That's our step counter. Like I said, one of the first things that helped track your fitness. And then the next things are a couple things that are more more relevant to today and what you can use today to kind of count your steps. Some people have Apple Watches, some people have Fitbits, different phone apps, generic brand fitness trackers. For the most part, you can find a fitness tracker nowadays, depending where you go, for probably $20, $30, $40. They're not super as expensive as they used to be, but they're a little more expensive than, let's say, a pedometer is. So the fitness tracker, it's going to be like your kind of basic watch. It's like an Apple Watch, like a Fitbit. It just has less technology in it, and it only does a few functions. So your Apple Watch is going to like tell you time. It's going to do all this different stuff. The fitness tracker really just tracks your steps for you. And it's an easier way to get your steps tracked and see how active you are, how much distance you're walking, how far you've gone that day. You could do it for a whole weekend and see how many steps you took in a weekend, how far you walked in a weekend, all that sort of stuff. And then there's other smartwatches other than like Apple Watch and Fitbit that tell time, all that kind of stuff. So there's a bunch of different options and different brands out nowadays. Your Apple Watches, your Fitbits, they're going to be a little more expensive. There's more like generic smartwatches that are a little cheaper. But then you have your fitness trackers and then your phone apps. So there's some phone apps that are free. There's some phone apps that cost money. So you kind of have to pick and choose which ones you use for that as well. And if you don't have if you don't have a phone, the phone app one isn't going to work for you. When we were talking about this in class, some people said that they could just count the steps in their head, which you could do, but it would be a little hard to keep track of how many steps you're taking each day and trying to keep track in your own head. So with our pedometer lesson today, all I'm going to do for the question is I want you to basically tell me 3 activities that you can do to help you get to your 10,000 steps each day. They could be going on a walk, walking your dog, playing sports. You could even do like bike riding. I would count bike riding. They might not count, a pedometer might not count the steps on a bike ride, but it is being physically active. So that would be an okay one. But literally any activity that you like to do that you think would help you get to these 10,000 steps, that's all I want you to tell me for today. It's a good way to kind of start thinking about what things you could do to get those more steps instead of getting 1,000 steps doing, let's say, a game of soccer. Maybe you could go for like a 1 mile walk, which would get you 2,000 steps. All of those different things. And like I said, it's all up to you and how you do that. Whatever activities you like to do or the activities that you do the most, you can always put those in there as well. Looking forward to next week. We're going to start trying to get 2 things in each lesson to kind of make it a little more efficient since we only have 1 lesson each week. So we're going to be talking about Frisbees next week. That is going to be one of the first thing we'll talk about in next week's video. And then also bowling. So we're going to be talking about bowling, how to hold the bowling ball, how to set up the pins, all that kind of stuff. And then talking about how to hold the Frisbee, how to catch it. And then we'll keep moving on from there. So pedometers were today. Bowling and Frisbee is going to be next week. As always, if you have any questions, have any comments, make sure to either send them over at a G chat or an email. That's the quickest way to get an answer. Or just leave the comments on the Google Classroom homework page as well. So have fun with today's lesson. Be ready for bowling and Frisbee next week, and we will see you guys next week.